Most people think aging shows up first in wrinkles, gray hair, or a slower morning. It doesn't. It shows up when your knees hesitate, when your balance starts negotiating with the floor, when your brain feels just a little less sharp, and when your body quietly stops trusting itself. And hidden inside that shift are 6 deceptively simple movement habits that may help you hold on to strength, clarity, and independence far longer than most people expect. This is senior health and wellness. Now here's what makes this so compelling. These habits do not look impressive. There's no heavy lifting, no punishing cardio, no expensive equipment, no performance. In fact, most people would dismiss them as too easy to matter. And that is exactly why they're dangerous to ignore. Because sometimes the movements that look the smallest are the ones sending the strongest signals into the brain, the joints, the muscles, and the nervous system. If you're over 50 and you've started noticing stiffness, slower reactions, weaker posture, or that strange feeling that your body is becoming less cooperative, stay with me. Because this is not about becoming younger. It is about slowing the biological slide toward fragility. It is about teaching the body to move like a system again. And that matters more than most people realize. Because aging is not just loss of muscle. It's loss of coordination, loss of mobility, loss of sensory feedback, loss of confidence. Your feet stop talking clearly to your brain, your hips stop opening, your trunk stops rotating, your balance system starts hesitating. And once that happens, you don't just move less, you start living less. Now watch this. The first movement is slow walking. Not casual wandering, not speed walking, not chasing calorie burn. This is a deliberately controlled walk done at a much slower pace than normal, often with the breath matched to the steps. Sounds too simple, right? But here's what we know from the script you gave me. This kind of walking has been associated with calmer cardiovascular signaling, lower pressure through the system, clearer thinking, better balance, and stronger activation of the deep muscles that keep us stable. That is not a small effect. That is a full-body communication upgrade. Mechanism. When you slow the walk enough, the foot has time to roll properly from heel to arch to toes. Why that matters? The feet are loaded with sensors, and those sensors feed information up to the brain about position, pressure, and balance. What we do? We walk slowly, with intention, letting each part of the foot actually meet the ground. What we do next? We pair it with calm breathing so the nervous system gets a second message at the same time. Slow down, stabilize, organize. That is where the magic really starts, because this isn't only about the feet, it's about the brain receiving cleaner input. When the foot lands with awareness, the ankle, knee, hip, and trunk all start coordinating more efficiently. The body becomes less sloppy, less reactive, less jerky. And that matters because falls, stumbles, and instability rarely begin as dramatic events. They begin as tiny failures in communication, and the breath changes the whole equation. Slow, rhythmic breathing can help quiet stress signaling. It tells the nervous system we are not in danger. That matters because a body that thinks it is under threat moves differently. Muscles tighten, range of motion shrinks, posture stiffens, balance becomes more fragile. So when you combine slow steps with slower breathing, you are not just walking. You are calming the system that controls movement in the first place. Here's what this suggests. Many adults are not undermoved. They are undercoordinated. They do plenty of motion, but very little of it restores precision. That's why something gentle can sometimes outperform something intense. And if you've ever thought that can't be enough to matter, ask yourself a better question. If a habit is easy enough to repeat every day for years, could that be why it works? Now, the next movement looks even more innocent. A short morning mobility flow. A few minutes, gentle reaches, arm circles, side bends, controlled knee lifts, no strain, no sweat. No big dramatic stretch face, just rhythmic motion that wakes the body up instead of attacking it. This matters because stiffness after 50 is not only about getting older, it is often about tissues receiving less motion, less lubrication, less rotational input, and less confidence-building movement first thing in the day. If the body starts the morning tight, guarded, and compressed, that pattern tends to echo into the rest of the day. Mechanism. Repeated light movement pushes synovial fluid through the joints. Synovial fluid is the body's built-in joint lubricant. Why that matters? When joints are nourished by motion, they usually move more smoothly and feel less sticky, especially after periods of rest. What we do? We move the major joints in a short, flowing sequence. What we do next? We do it early, before the day steals our attention and before stiffness gets locked in. Research described in your source linked this kind of daily movement ritual with fewer falls, less chronic back pain, and better mobility into older age. That makes sense, because the body adapts to what it repeats. Repeat compression, you get more compression. Repeat gentle opening, you often get better motion tolerance. And here's the part many people miss. This is not just stretching. Stretching sounds cosmetic. This is signaling. This is the nervous system getting reminded that shoulders can circle, hips can hinge, the spine can bend and rotate, the knees can lift, and the ankles can move without alarm. That matters for inflammation too. Inflammation is not always obvious. It is not just swelling or acute pain. Often it is a low, smoldering fire in the background that changes how tissues feel, how joints glide, and how much the body trusts movement. Gentle repetition can help lower that fire by improving circulation and reducing the sense of threat around movement. So the value here is not intensity, it is consistency. A tiny reset every morning can stop a small stiffness from becoming a full-day identity. If this kind of evidence-led, practical approach is how you want to age, subscribe now, because the next movement is where our modern lifestyle really starts to betray us. Deep squat rest. This is one of those positions the human body was designed to own, but many adults have lost almost completely. Heels lift, ankles lock, hips resist, the spine collapses. The body treats the squat like a hostile environment, and the reason is not mysterious. We have replaced this posture with chairs, couches, car seats, and years of never asking the joints to explore that depth again. But here is what the source makes clear. People who could hold a deep squat comfortably tended to preserve mobility, lower body strength, pelvic support, and independence better as they aged. That is a huge clue, because independence is built from capacities we take for granted until they disappear. Mechanism. The deep squat takes the ankles, knees, hips, spine, and pelvic floor through a coordinated loaded position. Why that matters? Those tissues stay healthier when they are exposed to useful range, compression, decompression, and control. What we do? We start with support, hold the position briefly, and let the body learn it again without forcing depth. What we do next? We build tolerance over time instead of turning it into a contest. Now, this is where people usually panic. Won't that hurt my knees? That is the wrong framing. The better question is this: what happens to the knees, hips, and ankles when we stop using them through their designed ranges at all? Avoidance feels safe in the short term, but over years, avoidance can become its own form of damage. The body starts interpreting ordinary positions as threats. Mobility shrinks, stability drops, confidence disappears, and then one day, getting down low to pick something up feels like an athletic event. That is not aging. That is deconditioning layered on top of aging. This is educational, not medical advice. We're evidence-led and we manage risk. So yes, use a wall, use a chair, put something under the heels if needed. Keep the hold short. Let your body earn the position. Because the goal is not proving toughness, the goal is restoring a posture your system may still remember but no longer trusts. And once the body starts trusting it again, something unexpected happens. The squat stops feeling like work and starts feeling like home. Now let's go to one of the strongest predictors of decline that almost nobody trains enough: standing on one leg. It sounds ridiculous until you try it with complete honesty. The second one foot leaves the ground, the body reveals everything. Weakness in the ankle, hesitation in the hip, overgripping in the toes. Trunk wobble, vision, dependence, fear, compensation. It all shows up immediately, and that's what makes it powerful. Mechanism. Single leg standing forces hundreds of tiny adjustments through the foot, ankle, knee, hip, core, and inner ear balance system. Why that matters? These corrections train the brain and body to stay upright under real-life conditions. What we do, we stand near support, lift one foot slightly, and hold steady with relaxed breathing. What we do next, we gradually increase time, then progress by reducing visual reliance or adding small head turns. The source links this practice with fewer fractures, fewer fall-related hospitalizations, and stronger brain regions related to balance and coordination. That should get your attention. Because this is bigger than balance. This is about whether your nervous system still knows how to integrate information quickly enough to protect you. And protection is everything. When balance declines, people don't just wobble more. They shrink their lives. They stop taking stairs confidently. Stop walking on uneven ground. Stop turning quickly. Stop reaching outside their comfort zone. And that caution slowly teaches the body to become less capable. This is how loss accelerates. Quietly, indirectly. First, the balance goes. Then the confidence goes. Then the movement variety goes. Then the strength starts fading faster because the system is no longer challenged. And then people say, aging just happened. No, something happened first. So, here's a question for you. When was the last time you tested your balance honestly enough to learn something from it instead of pretending you were fine? This is why pairing it with daily habits works so well. While brushing your teeth. While standing at the counter. While waiting for water to boil. These tiny anchors matter because they turn intention into repetition, and repetition is what changes the brain. Now watch this, because the next movement is less about one body part, and more about whether your entire system can still coordinate under demand. Getting down to the floor and back up again. That sounds humble. It is not humble. It is a full systems exam. Lower body strength, trunk control, mobility, planning, balance, sequencing, and confidence all show up in one sequence. If one piece is weak, the whole transition gets messy. And that is why it is so revealing. Mechanism. Floor transitions challenge strength, coordination, spatial awareness, and motor planning at the same time. Why that matters? Those qualities often decline quietly after midlife, even in people who still think of themselves as functional. What we do, we lower to the floor in stages, often through kneeling, using support if needed. What we do next, we practice rising back up safely, again with support if necessary, so the body relearns the route rather than panics. The source connects stronger floor transition ability with better flexibility, stronger lower body function, better cognitive performance, and lower mortality over time. That does not mean the movement is magic, it means the movement exposes whether multiple systems still work together under pressure. And that is the real issue. Daily independence is rarely limited by one muscle. It is limited by whether your system can coordinate a challenge without losing control. One risk could be assuming that because you can still walk around the house, your movement health is solid. But real life is not straight line walking on predictable surfaces. Real life is reaching, turning, lowering, getting up, reacting, and restabilizing when things do not go perfectly. That is why practicing the floor matters. Because the day someone cannot get off the floor is not just a physical inconvenience. It changes psychology. It introduces fear. It reduces exploration. It increases dependence. And once dependence starts expanding, physical decline often speeds up with it. So, no, this is not about flexibility for its own sake. This is about staying in charge of your own body in the moments that actually matter. And then we get to the final movement. The one that almost looks too basic to deserve the claims around it. The towel twist. You hold a towel at shoulder height. You pull outward gently to create tension. Then you rotate slowly through the trunk to one side, return to center, and repeat to the other side while keeping the hips mostly forward. That's it. Simple. Controlled. Almost boring. But not biologically boring. Mechanism. The towel creates tension that wakes up the shoulders, upper back, trunk stabilizers, grip, and rotational control muscles all at once. Why that matters? Rotation is one of the most overlooked capacities in aging, yet daily life depends on it for reaching, turning, bracing, reacting, and staying coordinated. What we do? We twist slowly with controlled tension and smooth breathing. What we do next? We use it briefly, often morning and evening, to wake the system up and then reorganize it again later in the day. The source describes associations with stronger grip, better coordination, healthier bones, and longer life. We should always be careful with big promises, but this is clear. When you combine posture, grip, tension, and rotation, you are challenging the body in a way modern sedentary life almost never does. And that matters for the brain too. Cross-body rotational movement forces communication across the system. Shoulders and hips have to coordinate. Eyes, vestibular input, and trunk control have to align. The brain has to map where you are in space while the body resists losing shape. That is not cosmetic movement. That is functional intelligence. And maybe that is why it feels so different from ordinary exercise. It doesn't just tire you. It reconnects you. No machines, no noise, no false urgency. Just a towel, a small amount of tension, and a body remembering how to organize itself. So what do we actually take from all of this? We know the body does not only age from time, it ages from reduced input, reduced motion, reduced range, reduced confidence, reduced coordination. We know simple daily habits can improve joint nourishment, postural control, balance signaling, and movement quality. We know the nervous system responds to repetition, and that what looks small to the eye can be massive to the brain. What this suggests is powerful. You may not need harder workouts as much as you need smarter signals. Better sensory input from the feet, better breathing rhythms, better joint motion in the morning, better tolerance for low positions, better balance challenges, better rotation, better communication between the brain and the body. That is how we lower risk. That is how we support a better clinical trajectory with aging. Not by fighting the body, but by giving it the kind of information that rebuilds trust. So, tell me this in the comments. Which one exposed you the most? The slow walk, the morning flow, the squat, the one-leg stand, the floor transition, or the towel twist? And which one are you actually willing to do tomorrow, not just admire today? Because this is the real divide in healthy aging. Not knowledge, not motivation, action. 1 minute can become a ritual. One ritual can become a pattern. One pattern can change how your body ages over the next decade. And the people who stay sharp, stable, and independent the longest are usually not the ones chasing extremes. They are the ones repeating the right signals often enough for the body to believe them. So start small, start supported, start honestly, but start. Because the most dangerous part of aging is usually not the pain you feel. It's the function you lose before the pain ever shows up. And once that quiet loss begins, the next thing to go may not be what you think.